In conversation with Kristie Wolf. Kristie Wolf, a writing star in the world of romantic suspense, weave tales that ignite heart and thrill readers. A passion for writing ignited during her teenage years grew with her into adulthood. Street that a lifelong dream is my reality with the launch of Too Dangerous to Love, the first electrifying installment in the Project Viper series, and the release of Knife to the Heart, the inaugural chapter in the Blood Snow series. By day, Christy navigates the complexities of government technology marketing, drawing inspiration from textbook calculus failures for a gripping plot, as stories feature fearless heroes and strong heroines who conquer all obstacles. Embark on Christie's journey into the world of romantic suspense, where love and danger intertwine in every page-turning adventure. And on today's episode of our interview, it's my utmost pleasure and joy to have on the show today, Kristie Wolf. How are you doing, Kristie?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing very fine too. It's lovely we can have this, really. I'm excited. We're going to be talking about your
Yeah,
book.
thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure as well. Chrissy, could you tell us about your book, Too Dangerous to Love, which is the
Mhm.
first book in the series of the Project Viper series? I'd love to ask you, how does this book come about? What inspired you to write Too Dangerous to Love?
Sure. So this is my book, Too Dangerous to Live,
Beautiful.
and I actually have two covers. So I
Oh,
have this traditional romance type cover, and
yeah.
then I also have this cover, um,
Beautiful.
which we call the special edition or the discrete cover. So people have choices.
Yeah.
So same book, different covers, and everybody has they can get what they want. So Too Dangerous to Love came about in 2016. I had written two books already that I didn't do anything with. I wasn't really sure what I
Hmm.
didn't try to publish them yet. And
Hmm.
so this was the third book that I wrote. And I saw a book of photographs by a photographer by the name of Michael Stokes.
Oh.
And he did a series of photographs of military veterans who were wounded. And many of
Oh.
them were amputees. Many of them had lost an arm or a leg. And he did these really hot, nearly naked photos of these veteran amputees that were breathtaking. Like
Hmm.
they were gorgeous. And I saw those photos and I said, I want to write about them. Like they deserve a happily ever after. Those are real heroes. And
Wow.
I want to write about a hero like that.
Wow. That's
And so that's
amazing.
how this book came about by seeing a photo.
Wow. That's amazing, really. That's an amazing way to start writing a book. I love the sound of it. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah. Then you have another title in the name of Knife to the Heart, small town, steamy, romantic suspense. For
Yep,
readers who haven't read that yet and without giving much information away, could we have a sneak of what I'd expect picking up Knife to the
sure.
Heart?
So Knife to the Heart released yesterday. And
Wow.
again, we have two covers. So this is one cover.
I love your ideas for two covers.
And this is the other cover, which everybody
Interesting.
loves. This is the more popular one. And
Oh.
so, yeah, this is the one that people are buying. So, Knife to the Heart came about because of my job. In my job, I work in government technology, but I am not a technology person. I can turn on my computer and make a spreadsheet. That's about it. But I know a lot of people in the in government technology because I do marketing in that space. And
Mm.
so I spend a lot of time working with chief information officers and chief security officers from all of the government and military agencies in the United States. And I listen to them talk about things like cybersecurity. And so when I'm listening to these webinars, I'm always taking notes about what can go wrong and how I can turn that into a book. And so
Wow.
I was on a webinar and it was about cybersecurity. And one of the speakers was the chief information officer from a hospital. And he was
Wow.
talking about a ransomware attack on his hospital and how they handled it.
Wow.
And fortunately, they handled it very well and nobody died. But they were talking about all of the catastrophic things that could happen
Hmm.
if a terrorist seized a hospital's network.
Wow.
Like imaging being down, medication errors, not being able to do surgery,
Hmm.
um, all sorts of terrible things that really could threaten someone's life.
Absolutely.
And so that was the idea behind Knife to the Heart. And so that's
Wow.
the external plot. There is a cybersecurity attack on a hospital in a small Colorado town. And
Wow.
my FBI heroine has been chasing this criminal. But unlike most cyber criminals who stay behind their computer, mine doesn't. Mine kills people.
Wow. I love this
So he's more than
idea.
just a cyber terrorist.
Yeah, I love this idea of terrorism, cyber security issue. And that would be a very dreadful thing if there'll be an attack or, an hospital website. It's gonna, cause a lot of havoc, really. I can
Yeah.
understand how dangerous that would be. Very dangerous.
Yeah.
Everything will be mixed up, really.
Yeah. They told me a story of school bus accident. Their hospital had a school bus accident, and a school bus accident came into their hospital. And their cyber systems were down, and so it was
Wow.
really difficult to handle that because they had to do everything by pen and paper, and they couldn't look
Hmm.
up they couldn't look up everything that they had backed up and all sorts of things. And so thankfully everybody was okay, and like I said, nobody died. But that could have been really catastrophic for them. And so I like to
Absolutely.
ask people what their worst case scenarios are.
Wow. That's an amazing concept, really. I love the sound of it. And now, Chrissy, there's this old question that I love asking authors that come on my show. I've always been fascinated about how authors, especially novelists like yourself, craft long sentences and brings works together in a way that it eventually make a great novel. These always leave me thinking about how exactly they got their ideas and inspiration. And as far as writing is concerned, I would love to ask you too, how do you get your inspiration and ideas? Where do they come from? Plus, sorry, I love to ask this too. What piqued your interest to write in romance genre?
Oh, when I grew up reading Harlequin novels when I was a teenager.
Oh,
My mom was a big romance reader, and both of my grandmothers were big romance readers. And so I started reading romance probably way before I was old enough to write romance. I mean, and to read romance. I was probably way too young to be reading what I was reading. Um, and I used to read over my mom's shoulder. And then finally she said, here's a book. Don't tell your father. And
oh,
so, and I read a few, and I looked at her one day and I said, I'm going to write these someday. And
that's
and so
interesting.
it's my escape. It's what I enjoy. I pretty much that's all that I read. I'll read out of my genre once in a while, but
Mm,
I will read anything that has a happily ever after. If there's not a
mm.
happily ever after, I'm out.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I'd love to go back to the first question about your inspiration and ideas. How do you get them?
Well, I talked about how I got the ideas, and so like for Too Dangerous to Love, let's go back to this book.
Yeah.
So my inspiration was veteran amputees, and I knew I wanted to write about them. And so I thought that the first two books I'd written were just straight up contemporary novels. So I thought that I might write about a veteran amputee, maybe his service dog, who, I don't know,
Mm,
maybe falls in love with his doctor or his physical therapist or his next door neighbor. And
wow.
then I was at my first writing conference that I ever went to. And
Mm,
I was listening to editors talk about the type of books that they were buying and what they were looking for. And someone said that they wanted books with something like DNA enhanced soldiers, super
wow.
soldiers. And they wanted strong heroines, like smart, like scientific type of genius type of heroines.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, I can do that. And
Mm,
so I gave my character, he has a weaponized bionic arm
mm,
that shoots lasers. And my heroine is the scientific genius who made him into a super soldier. So she has networked his weaponry in his body with his brain.
mm.
Um, and so she is super shy, very
Oh,
sheltered because of her backstory. And my hero, he's an alpha, he's a Navy SEAL, he's a possessive dominant type. So when the two of
wow,
those meet, opposites attract type of thing.
wow.
And so that's where the gist of that story comes from. And
Wow,
there's a lot of me in this book. My hero is named after my good friends who I call family, a Port Authority police officer that died on September
oh,
11th.
oh, wow. Sorry
He
about
rescued,
that.
thank you. His name was Chris Amoroso, and he rescued two groups of people, and he was injured. And he went back in to rescue a third group, and that's when the towers fell, and he was trapped in an elevator shaft,
Mm,
and he died.
wow,
So when I wrote my first book about about a hero, that's of course who I named him after. And
wow,
so there's reference to 9/11 in here. My father is a Vietnam veteran who suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder. And
wow.
my hero suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder. So there's a lot of drawing in here from, growing up with my dad that way and what my parents went through and what my mom went through.
Mm,
And so this book, there's a lot of like my history in this book. And so
wow,
as I was writing it, I
wow,
kept drawing from those things, like I knew
wow.
that these two were going to clash, um, and that they would eventually have to come together. So you have to figure that out. And writing a romance is difficult because you have to have your external plot, and your conflict, but then you have to figure out why these two people can't fall in love.
Mm,
You have to torture them before they reach their happily ever after. And that's the hard
absolutely.
part for me because I just want everybody to be happy.
Oh,
And so I struggle with, figuring out why these two can't be together and keeping that going throughout the story and following all the different, beats that you have to hit. And it's
mm,
also challenging writing romance because there's two protagonists.
wow,
When you're not writing romance, there's the good guy and there's the bad guy. And
wow,
pretty much every book that you read about writing a novel, they only talk about one protagonist. But as a romance author, we're like, wait, I have two. Like, what do I do with that? And there's very few books out there that address it that way.
mm, wow,
And so I had to learn how to do that.
wow. Wow, that's quite amazing, really. And I love the fact that you mentioned that there's a bit of your history in the book. That sounds
Yeah,
quite
yeah.
captivating to me. That's quite lovely to know, really. Thank you for sharing, Christy.
Thank you. My mom cried when she read it.
Oh, wow. That's quite emotional.
Yeah, there's a part in there. There's a character that I drew from my mom.
Oh,
And she called me up
wow.
in tears and she said, I never knew that you felt that way about me.
Wow. Wow. That sounds amazing, really, because I can
Yeah,
relate,
yeah.
I can relate
So
as a writer too, who has had a bit of his or her character from
yeah.
real life people. So
Mhm.
I understand how that makes you feel. Yeah, that's
Yeah, it was great.
beautiful. That's beautiful. Now, Christy, apart from Too Dangerous to Love and Knife to the Heart, do you have any other works you've authored or maybe currently working on? And also, I'd love to ask you, how do you undo criticism as a writer, especially the negative one? You might want to start with the first one or the
Sure,
second,
sure.
whichever.
Yeah, I have a lot of works in progress. These are only the first two books that I've published. And Too Dangerous to Love was published in October, Knife to the Heart yesterday.
Hmm.
But I've been writing since I was a teenager. And so I have a lot of things that I started that I want to go back to. I have two novels right now they're about 75% done
Wow.
that I want to wrap up. I have my two contemporaries that I wrote. I want to get out into the world. But right now I'm working on the second Too Dangerous to Love book. I'm sorry,
Wow.
the second Project Viper book. So this is called the Project Viper series because Project Viper is the name of the program that these
Okay.
guys belong to. And so
Yeah.
there's 4 members of Project Viper right now. And all
Oh,
4 of my guys will get their happily ever after in their own book.
wow.
And so there's no cliffhangers. They can all be read as standalones, but they're all interconnected around Project Viper. So the second one's called Too Lethal to Love.
Mm.
And I'm working on that right now, and I'm planning for that to come out in late fall of this year. So like November, end of November, early December timeframe.
That's beautiful. That's
And so actually I'm planning 7 books in the
wow.
Project Viper series because I want everybody to be happy. So I just want to give everybody their own book. And
Wow.
then in Knife to the Heart, the second book in Knife to the Heart will come out in 2025. We'll see how quickly I can write it. Trying to learn how to write faster. So that'll come out next year, and I'm planning 4 books for that series. It was only supposed to be a 3-book series. My hero has 2 close friends, so like his found family, like the brothers that he chose. So each one of them will get their own book. But then my editor was doing her editing thing, and she sent me an email, and she said, "I'm 3/4 of the way through this book. And please tell me that the security guard is going to get his own book because I love him."
Oh.
And I was like, well, he is now. So so we have a 4th book, and maybe a 5th
Wow.
book. I might do a prequel. But yeah, I have 2 others that I'm working on that I want to get out. And so I'm not, I'm just getting started. There's going to be a lot more books coming from me.
Wow, that's actually a lot of work, really, you've got up there.
It is.
That's a lot of work you've got going. And I loved how you've planned your publication ahead of time. Sounds very amazing, really. But that's a huge lot of work. I need
I'm
to commend
trying.
you.
Yeah. Yep. And I have 2 teenagers and a job too. So
Imagine.
yeah, and then there's the whole business part of writing. There's the whole marketing part,
Yeah,
like I knew all that, but it's a lot.
it's a
Like
lot.
I'm still learning and managing, and I have people helping me, and still like it's a lot. And like you figure like, okay, I write the book and then I get it to my editor, I make the critiques, I get it to my line editor, I make the critiques. Wonderful, right? But then like people keep sending you like, you got to proofread this, you got to look at this, you have to approve this. And it's like, wait a minute.
Oh,
That's a
wow.
lot of pressure. Like I have final say.
I can understand. Yeah, I understand that. I understand how it makes you feel. That's quite lovely to know, Christy. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
sharing about
you're an
all of
author,
this.
so
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And now let's go back to your take on criticism. How do you react to, negative criticism of your books? How do you handle them if you ever had one in time past?
the first 2 books I ever wrote, I totally wrote on my own, and I only shared them with my mom and a friend. Um, and then when I wrote Too Dangerous to Love, and the second one actually, I sent out to editors. I went to a writers conference where I came up with the final idea for Too Dangerous to Love, and I talked to editors about the second book that I had written, a contemporary novel that takes place in Vegas. So I call it my Las Vegas book,
Mm.
and I sent that out to some editors, and they got back to me, and they said no because it wasn't. I made a lot of rookie mistakes when I first started, when I was doing it on my own. I didn't understand point of view. I didn't understand a lot of fundamental things, but they said that I had a strong voice, which was
Wow.
really encouraging. So I knew that I had a lot to learn. So when I started Too Dangerous to Love, I joined a critique group. And
Mm,
so there were 4 or 5 of us, and every 2 weeks we sent each other 15 pages.
I love
And
that.
then we critiqued them, and then we hopped on a Zoom call and Skype at the time, and we talked about each other's books and how we could make them better and what was working and what we loved, what we didn't love, things like that. And so for a year, every 2 weeks, I did not miss a deadline. Every 2 weeks, I sent 15 pages to that group.
Wow.
And then I got the pages back with red ink all over them. Like one of my critique partners, Mary, she always calls it her cranky red pen, and she'd send me an email and she'd say, "I just want to give you a heads up. I was really cranky this time." And so
Wow.
then I would open it up, I would look at all of Mary's comments, and then I would send Mary a message and I'd say, "I can't talk to you right now." because I'm really kind of angry with you. So give me a few days to process. So I'd process it. I'd go back and I would look at it and I'd be like, yep, Mary's right. Yep, Mary's spot on. Yep, this doesn't belong there. And then I would sit down with
Mm,
Mary and we would go over everything.
mm,
And so I got those, I like from the get-go, I got those critiques right away. And
wow.
I learned that everybody has a different opinion on things, you know, and it's my book, because in the beginning I was just whatever someone suggested I changed and I was driving myself crazy. Because you know, when you're getting 4 or 5 different people telling you what to do, it's like, who do I listen to? And so I had to learn that like this is what I feel and this is what I want to do. I really
Yeah.
haven't gotten to you know, and then when I tried to, I did send Project Viper out to traditional editors and a couple other books that I wrote, and I got rejections from them. You
Wow.
know, and I tried to learn from them. Like if I got a few paragraphs, you know, from an editor saying that they liked my book, you know, they liked these things, but didn't like these things, I tried to look at it as, okay, like they like something. The frustrating part to me was when I would send my book to editors and nobody ever responded.
Mm, wow.
Right? Have you been there? Like you send like yeah.
Absolutely.
Um, and so and that's what really that's why I decided to independently publish, because you know, I didn't like waiting for people who were
Yeah,
never gonna get back to
absolutely.
me.
It's not fun,
And
really.
yeah, yeah. And we were getting really good feedback on Too Dangerous to Love. Like people liked it, but they were saying, we're just not buying that type of book right now.
Oh.
And my agent kept saying, be patient, write some more. And eventually we were both like, no, it's time. Let's do this on our own. And so I still haven't really gotten into the criticism in terms of reviews yet. Like I have, you know, I have reviews for Too Dangerous to Love. They've been positive.
Mm,
You know, the same for Knife to the Heart. You know, like a few people, like, you know, someone said it took me a while to get into it, but it was good. At the end of the Knife to the Heart, someone, you know, said that they thought that, you know, they had an opinion about the ends, but I just got to try to remember that it's so subjective and everybody has an opinion. You know,
absolutely.
like if someone points out a typo, that's an easy fix, right?
Yeah,
But if
yeah.
someone says, I don't like your character, you know, that's your opinion. Like there's not much I can do about that.
Well, I love your take on this, really, and I love the sound of your critic group because, yeah, that
Oh, they're
sounds very
wonderful.
helpful, really. And I love
Yeah.
to, if I find something like that, I would love to join. Yeah, that's very helpful, really. And, feedbacks are one of the complexities that comes along with writing. Who do I listen to? This person, there's another opinion, another opinion. Oh my goodness, it's really
Yep.
a lot trying to want to digest everything and choose whom to follow or who to go with.
Yes.
That's quite lovely. I love hearing your
Yes.
stories about your
Don't get me
writing.
wrong. There's plenty of tears involved. Sometimes there's tears, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's
but
true.
you know, you know, mostly when it was with the publishers, like when I was really hoping for something and it didn't work out. You know, or
Mm,
they tell you that 2 rounds of editors loved your book, but then the marketing and the finance people said no.
mm. That's
You're like,
great. Thank
man,
you for
so
sharing,
close.
Christy. Yeah,
Yeah, but you know, you just gotta keep trying. I just figure there's someone out there, there's an audience out there.
yeah,
And I just gotta find that audience and find my people.
absolutely. That's
You
great.
know, because and you know, as a writer, like it's not a product that's gonna go away. Like you know, my books are always gonna be available. And so
Yeah,
like 10 years from now, like Knife to the Heart or Too Dangerous to Love be you know, like could go viral. Like somebody
yeah,
might read it and like tell their 80
absolutely.
bazillion followers that this is
Yeah.
the greatest book ever.
Yeah, that's
So
true. That's true. Now, I'd love to know your take on publishing. Could you tell us what publishing is like for a published author like yourself? Are there any challenges you've encountered ever since you got published?
I think the biggest challenge is getting the next book out there,
Mm,
because prior to being published, I was focused on the book.
Wow.
like writing the book and getting it done and going through all the stages of editing and getting the cover done and
Yeah.
all that fun stuff. But now that once I had a book out there,
Yeah.
I had to split my time between marketing that book
Mm.
and working on the next book. And so it's tough for me to shift gears sometimes,
Mm.
like to get back into that starting from scratch space.
Wow.
Because I wrote Too Dangerous to Love in 2017. It's been revised 86 times. But when I
Wow.
decided to publish, it was a finished book. And then Knife to the Heart, I wrote 2 years ago. So when I
Mm.
decided to publish Knife to the Heart, it was a finished book. And now with the
Wow.
second Too Dangerous to Love book, I'm starting from scratch. And I haven't done that in a while.
Mm.
And so like I sit down in the morning, I'm a morning person, so I get up around 4:30, 5 o'clock, and that's my writing time. And
Wow.
but I sit down to write and it's like, but wait a minute, I have to post today. Like, I'm getting emails from, people that like, I'm going to several, big writers events this year. So I'm like, fill this form out. Tickets are on sale, put this on social media. Do you want to
Mm.
do this event? For my cover designer, like, can you proof this? And I mean, this is all fantastic. Like, this is what I signed up for, and this is what I've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
But it's hard to go back to that to get that creative time.
It's hot. Yeah. That's great. I love your take
Yeah,
on this,
yeah.
really.
So I'm learning. Like this is a whole learning process.
I understand. Thank you for sharing, Chrissy. And now I'd love to ask you, is there anything that you'd love to share with the viewers about your books that we did not mention in this interview and you'd love the viewers to know? Also, as a published author, what sort of advice do you have for struggling writers?
Okay, in terms of what I want my what the viewers to know about my books,
Yeah,
I told you I like to write about like what happens when technology spectacularly fails. And so you can expect more of that from me.
yeah.
And I also want to start to eventually like move into kind of like fantasy and paranormals type stuff.
That'll be fine.
So you can expect that from me in the future. And I like to feature strong heroines who, aren't rescued by the guy. They can take care of themselves.
Wow.
I like a lot of conflict and I write steamy romance. And so it is
Mm,
definitely not a Hallmark movie.
wow.
And yeah, that's it. Like there's a lot more books coming. It's and my books are a fun ride. Like you're guaranteed a happily ever after. You are, guaranteed to have some action and adventure and
Mm,
hopefully fall in love with the characters and then want to read about their friends and their family coming up in the next books.
beautiful. This is so beautiful to know. It's so fun to know. And I love to have your advice for struggling writers, people yet to publish a book.
Keep writing. Yep, and right, just keep writing and keep revising.
Yeah,
Like Nora Roberts, our romance goddess, the queen of romance, says you can't edit a blank page.
that's true.
So if you put something down on that page, you can go back to it the next day and you can make it better.
Oh, yeah,
And they say write every day, which sometimes is not feasible, but write as often as you can because I am
yeah,
proof of what I said before. It's a skill and it's a muscle that needs to be worked because
yeah,
I haven't worked my creative writing muscle in a while because I've been busy getting books out and I'm rusty. And yeah, and just trust in your process. Like there's so many, there so many books on outlining and there's so many different camps like this is the way to do it and this is the best way to do it. Find what works for you.
yeah,
Read the craft books, get
mm,
ideas from them. Like when I write, I'm trying to be a better outliner.
yeah,
And so I take advice from three different books. And then that's how I try to craft my outline.
wow,
Rather than just sticking to one method. And it's changing. And don't be afraid to let people read your work
mm,
because my critique group is the only reason that I wrote Too Dangerous to Live.
wow.
And so find trusted people. And if you can't, my biggest mistake when I first started writing was I thought it was a solitary endeavor. It was just me and my laptop, and that is not the case. You need your people. And if you can't find your people, hop on social media, get on Facebook,
Yeah,
join groups about authors and
absolutely.
readers and other writers, go to conferences if you can, take webinars.
Absolutely.
Right, hang out with the people that are doing what you do, because
Yeah,
when you get that rejection, or when you're like, you just can't, you're like, I can't do this, and
mm,
you're complaining to your mom or your friend, they're going to say, oh, it's okay, don't worry about it. But when you complain to another writer or
yeah,
share it
to
with another
find a
writer,
solution
they
for
are
you.
the only ones that are going to get you.
Absolutely, that's true.
And so find your tribe and rely on them. I have found, at least in the romance community, everybody is super helpful and really,
Mm,
really supportive. Um,
absolutely,
we all try to help each other out. And so I suspect and hope that, other genres,
would pick up.
support each other the same way.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, so that's my biggest advice. Don't be afraid to tell people if you're keeping it to yourself. Like, if you wrote a book, you're a rock star.
yeah,
There are so many people out there who want to write a book and never do, or say, I could never do this.
yeah.
I was at a local library on Sunday, and they had a romance author event to celebrate Valentine's Day. And
Wow,
I met a mom and her grown 20-something-year-old daughter and her daughter-in-law. And
wow.
so they were telling me about their book club, and they were interested in reading Too Dangerous to Love for their book club.
That would be
And I was like,
great.
hey, like, I lived by you. Like, like, if you read my book for book club, I'd be happy to come if you
That's
want me
beautiful.
there. I said, having a book club read my book is like on my publishing bucket list. Like, that's so cool.
That's
And
beautiful.
so I emailed her, and she wrote me right back, and she was like, my colleague is making fun of me right now because I'm so excited that you emailed me. And I was like, oh my
Wow.
God, little old me? Like what the heck? But like, people are seriously impressed when you write a book and publish a book.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
like, I was at an event yesterday, a book launch for a signing. I was at my local coffee shop on Main Street here. And I was supposed to be there till 2 o'clock. And I got a message on Instagram from somebody named Danielle. And she was like, what time are you going to be there until? And I'm like, 2 o'clock. And I thought it was Danielle that I knew from book club. So I'm like,
Wow.
sure, I'll hang out another hour. I'm like, no problem. So I hung out another hour, and then in walks this woman that I don't know. And she's like,
Wow.
hi, I'm Danielle. And I'm like, oh my God, like, you don't know me. You saw that on social media, and you came here right after work and reached out to me because you wanted to buy my book.
Wow. That's
Like,
beautiful.
how cool is that?
That's an
And so,
amazing
yeah,
feeling. Yeah.
be proud of what you're doing. And
Absolutely.
imposter syndrome is terrible. Like, if you're sitting down and putting words on paper and you're writing a story, you're an author. And someone told that to me. So don't
Yeah.
say you're an aspiring author. Don't say you're an author to be. You are an author.
Yeah, I love that. I love your advice, really. It sounds very educative and informative. And I'm hopeful that viewers, including myself, will love to utilize it. Now, Christy, in case we have some interested viewers who are watching this interview, I would love to get a copy of any of your books. On what platform is it available on for purchase?
Oh, sure. So all of my books are available on Amazon. They're available on Kindle, and they're all available on Kindle Unlimited.
Mm.
Too Dangerous to Love is on sale. The ebook is on sale for 99 cents until February 19th. I put that on
Oh,
sale to celebrate the release of Knife to the Heart. I also put them on Ingram Spark, which is the platform that you can put them on, and then they get put on a bunch of other websites.
yeah.
So Kindle is the only place to get the ebook, but Too Dangerous to Love is available on barnesandnoble.com. I believe it's on Books a Million. Ingram Spark put it on a lot of websites. I probably don't even know where they all are. Knife to the Heart will be up shortly. I think one of the editions I approved yesterday. We were a little late getting Knife to the Heart up on that website, but Knife to the Heart will be available on other platforms as well.
That's
You can
great.
also go to my website, kristiewolf.com, And I can you can purchase a book there, and I can send you a signed copy if you like. And I'm also looking into other ways to sell direct. I'm thinking about doing an Etsy shop, and I'm looking into a TikTok shop as well.
That's great. That's great.
So follow me on social media, and then stay tuned for things like that.
Yeah. And I left a link in the description part of this interview where interested viewers can get a copy of Christy Clemet's books directly on Amazon. And I also left a link to our website and social media followings as well. So thank you so much, Christy, for accepting the
Thank
invitation
you.
to be featured on P English Literature. It's awesome having this conversation with you.
I really appreciate it. It was great
Yeah,
meeting you.
it's my pleasure as well. That was fun, really.